Shalom, my Israelite brothers and sisters. So first of all praises to our Elohim and to his only begotten son, Yahushua. I want to do something different today. This is going to be a lesson/discussion. We're going to be talking about Babylon the Great. Now, I've heard some people say that America is Babylon for the simple fact that we are the greatest superpower in the world. We have our military all over the world, which is true. Now, I've even heard some people say it's China because they have a great superpower financially. They have a huge military, and they're growing among the other nations. I've heard people say Russia is Babylon because the Cold War never ended, and Russia has been rising up over the years. And some people even say that the Middle East is Babylon, just for the fact that the Middle Eastern countries are unifying. Now, you have people who have their conclusions and their reasons to who is Babylon. But I'm here to tell you, neither one of them are correct. You see, Babylon is not a particular place in general. So Babylon is not so much of who, but of what. And this is what we're going to talk about in this lesson/discussion. What is Babylon? What is its purpose? But in order to understand the whole nature of Babylon, we must first go back to the beginning of its origins. Because once you understand the origins of Babylon, you're going to realize that it's really not a place at all, but a worldwide system. But what is this worldwide system that Babylon consists of? And however, all the countries on the face of the earth are taking part in this great worldwide system. Well, we're going to get into that because we got some exciting things to talk about. And I can't wait to share them with you. But before we go to the beginning, let's go to our first script. Revelation chapter 14 and verse 8. And it reads, And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Now, brothers and sisters, I really want you to pay close attention to the wine, because that's going to be key. And there's a reason why I'm leaving verse 9 and 10 out, because we're going to come back to that later on. But right now, I just want to build a base because everything is going to make sense towards the end of the lesson. Also, throughout this lesson, you're going to hear me randomly mention Nimrod and Constantine. Now, there's a reason for that, and you're going to pick it up once we get well into the lesson. But for the meantime, let's go ahead and go back to the beginning where it all began, in Genesis. All right, let's get into the history of Nimrod. Turn to Genesis chapter 10, and I'm going to read verses 6 through 8. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sebta, and Raamah, and Septecha. And the sons of Raamah, Sheba, and Dedan. Verse 8. And Cush begot Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. So in other words, this man became so mighty in the earth that to this very day that he would be recognized for something very big, or started, I should say. Now, we know for sure through scriptures that Nimrod was of the line of Ham. He would actually be the great-grandson of Noah through the line of Ham. Now, you can read the same account in 1 Chronicles chapter 1, verses 8 through 10, and it reads exactly the same way as we read it in Genesis. Now, a lot of people don't really know the whole history behind Nimrod. I mean, it's out there. You can do your research and study it for yourself. But a lot of people don't realize that this whole Babylonian system is actually tied to the origins of Nimrod. I mean, you have people who really think and believe that Christianity is a new concept that just came about 2,000 years ago. But brothers and sisters, this thing goes way back. It just wasn't called Christianity back then. That's why I'm excited about this lesson. That's why I'm excited for the things that we're going to be talking about. And we're going to break it down and show you how this Babylonian system that exists today is still tied to the old Babylonian system that existed in the past. It's the same thing, brothers and sisters. It's just by a different name. That's all. Let's continue. Let's jump over to Genesis chapter 10 and verse 9. And it says, he, talking about Nimrod, he was a mighty hunter before Elohim. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Elohim. Now let's talk about this term, mighty hunter. Because a lot of people see this and they think that Nimrod was just a great hunter. He hunted big animals and he was skilled in hunting. But hunting big, gigantic animals was not what this verse is talking about. If you look up the Hebrew word hunted, now there's several meanings for it. Now it does also mean to hunt animals, but it also means from or away. So when it says that, I'm going to read this verse again. He was a mighty hunter before Elohim, wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Elohim. So this man was against the Most High. We know that for sure. He was against the Most High. So if he was against the Most High, that means that he was a destroyer of souls. He turned the hearts of the people away from Elohim. Well, not everybody, because Abraham did not fall into that Babylonian system. And a lot more as well that was with Abraham. So as it says in the word of the Most High, that Nimrod was a mighty hunter before Elohim, it means that he turned the people's hearts and minds away from the Most High Yah. Remember, we just read in verse 8 that Nimrod began to be a mighty one in the earth. So by him being a mighty hunter before Elohim, because he was against Elohim, he had nothing to do with Elohim. He was totally the opposite. So he was a destroyer of souls. And with that being said, his determination was to turn the hearts and minds of the people away from Elohim. That's why so much corruption came about before the building of the Tower of Babel. So I want to make a comparison, saints. And you're going to all hear me do this kind of throughout the lesson, make comparisons, because I want to bring out some points. But fast forward today, this very day that we're living in. Now, what is the number one thing that is keeping our people ignorant? Or I should say, what is the number one thing that is destroying our people? Most of you already guessed it. Christianity, or I like to call it Christian insanity. So you think about Christian insanity and how it's destroying our people. It's turning our people away from the laws of the Most High. It's telling them that it's okay to embrace all the pagan holidays. It's teaching them that everybody's going to make it to heaven. So look how it's destroying our people. So Christianity can be considered a destroyer of souls. Now, this whole Christian insanity thing is all part of the Babylonian system that we're going to talk about even more. We're going to get more detail, but we're going to talk about more about this Christianity. But I want to stay on point with Nimrod because I just wanted to bring out that point to you. So as I said earlier, that Nimrod being a mighty hunter before Elohim simply means that he was a destroyer of souls by turning the hearts and the minds of the people away from Elohim. All right, let's continue. So let's go over to Genesis chapter 10 and pick up at verse 10. Now, before I read this, some people think that Nimrod was only the kingdom of Babel or Babylon, but Nimrod was the beginning of many kingdoms, brothers and sisters. And if you even read on past verse 10, you'll see all the kingdoms, the different kingdoms that he was over. So verse 10, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar. So Babel was just one of many kingdoms that Nimrod started. I'm telling you, saints, Nimrod was off the chain. This dude wasn't no joke. And he is still the most worshipped figure unto this very day. So I just want to give a brief history of the family tree of Nimrod. Now, I'm not going to get into a long, drawn-out history lesson on Nimrod because it goes deep, saints. I mean, this thing with Nimrod and his family is deep. And I don't want to get off the point because the whole point here is just to talk about this Babylonian system that exists in the past and today as well. So if you look at this little layout I have before you, so in the middle, of course, is Nimrod. And to the far left of Nimrod is his wife, Semiramis. Now, I've seen some debates about his wife. Some people, or some scholars are saying that she was actually the mother of Nimrod, and that Nimrod impregnated her and they had their son Tammuz. And there's other scholars who are saying that's not accurate. She was actually the wife of Nimrod. She wasn't his mother. So, however, that's to be proven. I'd like to see some of your comments on that, see what you guys think. If you got some links to prove that, then hey, more than welcome to put them in the comment section. And then to the far right, we know that Nimrod, his son. Now, here's what we do know for sure, brothers and sisters. We know that Nimrod was from the line of Ham, as we proved from the scriptures. And through historical facts, we know that his wife's name was Semiramis. And we also know through historical facts that Nimrod and Semiramis had a child named Tammuz, who would later become one of the greatest figure, or I should say, would become the sun god as people worship throughout history and even unto this very day. And their son Tammuz was born on 25th December. That's right, saints. And billions of people who take part in this satanic Christmas holiday, this Christmas pagan holiday, have no idea what they're worshiping. They think that they're worshiping a blue-eyed Jesus, a blue-eyed, blonde-haired faggot. That's who they believe that they're worshiping when they set their little Christmas trees up and decorate them with lights and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to talk about that a little bit as well too. So brothers and sisters, if you have family members who are still worshiping on Sundays, going to these Christian churches, then you can gladly tell them that they're honoring the sun god Tammuz, because Sunday is the day of the sun. It's a weekly cycle. And this is something that Constantine even enforced. And we're going to talk about that as well. So as you can already see, saints, we got a lot of things that we need to talk about. But don't worry, it's going to start getting very interesting here soon. All right, we're going to go ahead and get into the meat of this lesson. But before we get into this, brothers and sisters, before we go to Genesis right quick, I want to share something with you. The Spirit of the Most High has put on my heart a couple of mornings ago. I was lying in bed, no joke, and it's like the Spirit of the Most High just fell upon me and told me that I need to start doing more videos on Revelation. I was like, wow, because as we're living in these last days, a lot of these prophecies are already starting to come to pass already, and we don't see too many brews doing lessons on Revelations. I've seen other stuff like, who is Esau? Esau are the Arabs. People arguing over the name. Oh, you can't pronounce the name this way, it got to be pronounced that way. I mean, just all kinds of petty stuff. And hell, I even seen one Ak, he got like 20 doggone videos just on Esau alone. So brothers and sisters, my goal here is this, is to prepare the hearts and the minds of Yah's chosen people for the second coming of Yahushua, and to encourage Yah's people to get back to these laws, commandments, and statutes. So from here on out, brothers and sisters, in the future, we're going to be getting into the 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, the 7 veils, the witnesses. We're going to be getting into a lot of things in Revelation, brothers and sisters, because this is what the Most High, this is what the Spirit of the Most High has laid upon my heart, and I have to obey. I have to be obedient to this. So this is what you're going to see from here on out. So don't look for any future lessons from me on who is Esau, because as far as I'm concerned, they all heathens in the eyes of the Most High, and they're going to be destroyed when the time comes, because anybody outside of Israel really don't matter anyway, except for the remnant of the heathens that are going to be preserved for handmaids and servants. All right, let's continue with the lesson on Babylon. So turn with me to Genesis chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 1 through 3. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Verse 3, and they said one to another, go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. Now notice how I have one language and one speech underlined, because the word of the Most High is telling us that at one point in time in history, the whole earth was speaking one language. They were all on the same tune. Verse 4, and they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Verse 5, and Elohim came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. Now this tower that they were building was not some big skyscraper they were trying to reach into the atmosphere, but for the same purpose that CERN is doing today was the same purpose that they were trying to use the Tower of Babel for, to communicate with the other side, to communicate with other dimensions. And I explained that in a little more detail in a video titled, Yah will cut the time short for the elect's sake, so you can check that out if you want to get a better understanding of that. Verse 6, and Elohim said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Verse 7, go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Most High is clearly telling us that he stopped them from building that tower, this so-called CERN-like tower, from completing their mission. Why? Because it wasn't time yet. Now, notice that it said that they were all one language. And then it continued to say that now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Now, brothers and sisters, I want you to get the gravity of this, because these people were so wicked. Every imaginable thing that they were doing, that they thought about, they were putting it into practice. Just like today, all the wickedness that's going on today, because of their imaginations, they were doing the same thing back during the days of the Tower of Babel. So the Most High had to come down and confound the language, and that's how they started to separate it, and they spread out throughout the whole earth. But notice that only the construction of the Tower of Babel stopped, but they would continue to practice their pagan worship throughout the centuries, and we're going to discuss that here in a minute. Verse 8, so Elohim scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. In other words, they had to stop because nobody could understand one another. Verse 9, therefore is that name of it called Babel, because Elohim did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did Elohim scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Now, brothers and sisters, so this word Babel, when you hear it today, people say it means confusion. That's where that's where they get it from, because it was the beginning where the Most High confound their language. So when you think about Babylon today, that's all it is. It's confusion. It's a bunch of pagan worship, all tied into one, with many different languages. All right, saints. So let's go ahead and recap of what we got so far through scriptures. Now we know that Nimrod through scriptures was the lineage of Ham. He was of the descendant of Ham, Noah's great grandson. And we also know through scriptures that Nimrod was the beginner of Babel. And that was just one of many kingdoms that Nimrod started. And we know that at one point in time in history, the whole earth was of one language or one speech. Now that means that if the whole earth was at one language at one time, they had a one world religion, which would be pagan worship. Now this is the old Babylon. Now I'm going to make a comparison with the new Babylon, but we got to talk about Constantine first before I show that to you. And this is why, brothers and sisters, I'm getting excited about this, and sometimes I have to remind myself to speak slowly, because sometimes when I get excited about the word like this, I start talking really fast and stuttering and carrying on. So I got to contain myself, because this even excites me, brothers and sisters. I mean, I love this stuff. So let's look at this again. So this is the picture I want to present to you, so you can kind of get a big picture, a view of the old Babylonian system. And you're going to find out, brothers and sisters, that it's really no difference from the Babylonian system that exists today. So look at this again. One language, one religion, pagan worship. And before the Tower of Babel, these people were so wicked and corrupt. They did everything, they put everything into practice that they imagined to do. So this was their world. This is all they knew, pagan worship, until Elohim came down and confounded their language, and the construction stopped on the Tower of Babel. But the pagan worship would continue throughout the centuries, because they would spread out throughout all the earth, and they would carry the same pagan worships with them to everywhere where they were scattered on the face of the earth. Now let's go back to Revelation chapter 14 and touch on verse 8 again. And it says, "And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." Now here's what trips some of our brothers and sisters up concerning Babylon. Now they'll read where it says that great city and automatically think that it's talking about America or some other place. So yes, it was a place at one time, but this is not what this verse is referring to. This great city that it's talking about is this whole worldwide Babylonian system. And we're going to prove that even more as we go along. But some people read this and they think that it's talking about a particular place. That's why I've heard some Hebrews, they'll say that America is Babylon. That's not true. That's not accurate, because yes, America is taking part. America is part of the Babylonian system as well as all the other countries. But America itself is not Babylon. And you're going to see that clearly as we go throughout this lesson. Also, I touched on this wine a little earlier, and we're going to learn throughout this lesson that wine is actually dealing with the doctrines of this whole worldwide Babylonian system. Now, I want to show you something. I want to prove to you through scriptures that when we read Revelation 14:8, when it says this great city, it's not talking about a particular place, but a worldwide system. So some of you, or probably many of you, are familiar with Daniel chapter 2, the image that Daniel had, the vision he had in his dreams. Well, you had Babylon, who was the first world empire. You had Medo-Persia, who was the second world empire. Then you had Greece, third world empire. Then you had Rome, the fourth world empire. And out of that came all the other countries, United States, so forth. Now, is Babylon still alive and well today? Of course not. Babylon was overcame by the Medes and the Persians. Is Persian still in existence today? Same thing. They were taken over by the Greeks. Is Greece still active as we speak? Nope. They were taken over by the Romans. And so the Romans came along and they fell. America rose. So the point I'm trying to make here, brothers and sisters, is that even though these worldwide countries don't exist physically today, but their practices still do, because Babylon, they were hard in pagan worship. All that stemmed from the Tower of Babel. All that is traced all the way back to Nimrod. So you see where I'm going with this. So we're tracing this thing all the way back to the sources, or back to its origins. So all the way from Babel, from Babylon to Persia, Greece, Rome, they continued to practice pagan worship. And everything that they practiced back then, they're still practicing today. Let me prove it to you even further. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44. And it says, "And in the days of these kings shall Elohim of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed." I get that, saints? Which shall never be destroyed. "And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms." Get that, saints? It says all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now, has that happened yet? Absolutely not. So why does it say these kingdoms? Because we know that Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome are non-existent today, physically. But it's because of their practices. It's because they carried on all the confusion with Babel, the pagan worship, all the way up into this present time. So when Yehoshua comes back, he's gonna be that rock that's gonna strike this image, and all these kingdoms are gonna fall. This whole worldwide system, brothers and sisters, is gonna come crashing down. Now, this is why I wanted to talk about this and bring this out, because I'm gonna show you plainly what this worldwide system consists of, and you're gonna see it so clearly, as clear as day. There should be no confusion after this to what Babylon really is. So this worldwide Babylonian system is going to all be struck down by Yehoshua HaMashiach, brothers and sisters. And he's going to build his kingdom, and it's going to last forever. That's why the Bible says in Revelation chapter 18:4, it says, "Come out of her, my people, come out of her." That's why so many of our people don't realize how dangerous Christian insanity is. I mean, it is such a dangerous drug, brothers and sisters. They have no idea what they're playing with. All right, saints, now we got one more person to deal with named Constantine, and then we're going to start connecting all the dots together. We're going to start tying all this together, brothers and sisters, and you're going to see clearly what this whole Babylonian worldwide system consists of. Let's talk about this crazy heathen named Constantine. He was a Roman emperor. He was known as Constantine the Great, born around February 27, 272 AD, almost a little over 2 centuries after Yehoshua HaMashiach was on the scene. There's a book I read a while back ago. It's called The Rise and the Fall of the Roman Empire. Well, in this book, it talks about Constantine and how he rose to power and what he did and what he was really famous for. What a lot of people don't know or understand about Constantine was that he was very famous for revolutionizing pagan worship. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Constantine was a converted Christian. Now, not for the sake that he was interested in Judaism or willing to keep any of the Most High's laws, commandments, and statutes. Not even close, brothers and sisters. He had nothing to do with the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But because a lot of his colleagues, his pagan colleagues, were into pagan worship as well too, he was really famous for revolutionizing pagan worship and making it more attractive to his pagan colleagues. I said earlier in a couple of my videos that whenever these heathens, whenever they do something, it's never for the sake of Zion. It's always for their perverted purposes to fulfill their agendas. And Constantine, he was actually the beginning of the rise of papal Rome. Now, if you study history and if you read about papal Rome was the religious state system that came about with Constantine. That's when you had all the rising of the popes until this very day with Pope Francis. There's been over, I think, like 660 something popes since the time of Constantine the Great. So it goes deep, brothers and sisters. This thing goes way down the rabbit hole. And also, what people really don't know about Constantine is that he would be the stardom of what we call Christianity today. That's right, brothers and sisters, Christianity, or should I say Christian sanity. So basically what Constantine did is just took what Nimrod started, pagan worship. Constantine took pagan worship and made it attracting to Christians, therefore slapping a name on it and putting it under the banner of Christianity. This thing is deep. It's serious. That's why a lot of our people don't realize what they're doing. When they're attending these Sunday churches, when they are embracing these pagan holidays, all they are doing is taking part in pagan worship from this same Babylonian system that was started thousands of years ago by Nimrod. So what I'm saying here, saints, is that at one point when we were caught up in Christianity, we were partakers of pagan worship, not even realizing the ignorance of this thing. Now, I'm going to challenge you with something, saints, because some of y'all probably don't even know where these denominations came from. Do y'all know where the Baptists came out of? Do y'all know where the Methodists came out of? The Lutherans, the Mormons, the Presbyterians, all those religions. We're going to talk about all those religions and where they actually came from. And I think some of you are going to be pretty surprised and shocked to know that these religions really originated out of pagan worship. It all stems to one place, brothers and sisters. But yet, our so-called black people are sitting up in these Sunday churches, worshiping the sun god Tammuz, thinking they're actually worshiping the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's how dangerous this Christian insanity is, brothers and sisters. That's why it needs to be exposed. Before we expose these Christian churches, just want to talk a little bit about these pagan holidays. Now, saints, the same pagan holidays that exist today existed thousands of years ago. They just wouldn't call Thanksgiving, by the way, which is the celebration of the dead. They wouldn't call Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, Easter. They had a different name to them. But I can prove to you one of the biggest holidays was still going on thousands of years before they even slapped the word Christmas on it. Let me prove it to you. And see, this is why the Most High said, learn not the way of the heathens. We must not take part in any of their activities. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10. I want to read verses 2 through 5. Thus said Elohim, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathens are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are in vain. Y'all hear that, saints? The customs of the people are in vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen. With the axe they deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. Verse 5. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is in them to do good. Brothers and sisters, this whole Christmas thing goes way back thousands of years ago. It just wasn't called Christmas, but they were still practicing these same Babylonian practices. This whole Babylonian system, this pagan worship. That's why Christmas is the biggest pagan worship in history. It is celebrated all over the world. There's not a country that don't celebrate Christmas. It's that widespread, and it all stems back to the old Babylonian system, and it's still carried out to this present day. So when our so-called black people put these Christmas trees up in their homes and they start decorating with all this glitter, putting all kind of stuff on them and lights on them, all they're doing is paying homage to pagan worship. They're giving homage to a man named Nimrod. That's why I call them Nimrod trees, because that's all they are. They've been doing this for a very long time, saints. And so many of our people are so ignorant, not even realizing what they're doing. And you want to know the sad part about these pagan holidays? Our so-called black people will try to outdo the heathens in celebrating these pagan holidays. And that's some crazy stuff, saints. I've never seen anything like that in my life. What I want to do now is start connecting the old Babylonian system with the new Babylonian system. Now, I know we've been talking about it a lot, so bear with me. So we're going to recap a little more. Now, we talked about Nimrod in the very beginning. He was the beginner of Babel. We know that they were one language, and we know that their one religion was pagan worship. This was the old Babylonian system. Now, you're going to hear me repeatedly say the old Babylonian system and the new Babylonian system. There's a reason for that, brothers and sisters. In reality, they're the same. I'm just going to make a comparison because what I want to show you that this old and new Babylonian system are actually the same, but because we learned more about Constantine and what his purpose was, we're going to see what was added. Because remember, when the Most High stopped the construction of the Tower of Babel, the people spread to all four corners of the earth, all over the world, carrying their pagan worship with them. Even though they were many different languages, but they still continue to practice these pagan rituals, and that would carry on to this very day. So I'm excited to share this with you. So So this next slide I'm going to show you, I want you to pay close attention to it because we're going to be on it for a minute, because there's some things that I want to really bring out and bring to your attention. All right, saints, this is the moment I've been waiting for. All right, let's take a look at this layout here. Now, if you notice, it's similar to the old one, pretty much the same, but with just more added things to it. So let's start with the very top. Remember, we read about Nimrod in Genesis. He was the beginner of Babel. Their one religion was pagan worship, or I should say, their one world religion was pagan worship. Now, remember, he had a son named Tammuz. Tammuz was born on 25th December. He would become known as the sun god. So every Sunday commemorates the sun god Tammuz. So that's why I have him on the left-hand side. Now, here's where Constantine came in at. Now, we learned about Constantine. We knew that through history that he was the beginner of the rise of papal Rome, the religious state church that would come about for the next thousands of years. So Constantine was famous, or really known for revolutionizing paganism. He made paganism attractive to Christians. So Christianity came out of that whole movement. And again, brothers and sisters, you can study this stuff. It's out there. I'm not making none of this up. Now, out of this Christianity, Constantine, with the rise of the popes, will come the Roman Catholic Church. And do y'all know that the Roman Catholic Church is pretty much the oldest religion pretty much out there? Well, it actually came out of pagan worship, brothers and sisters. That's where the Roman Catholic Church came. It came out of pagan worship. That's where it stemmed from. Now, I want you to look to your left. Now, I got the different religions. I got your Lutherans, your Baptists, Mormons, Presbyterians, Pentecostals, your SDA, Methodists, Episcopalians, your Jehovah's Witnesses, and your Scientology. Now, brothers and sisters, there's a lot more that I could not fit on this chart because I would have to literally make 6 charts to really explain everything, but I want to keep everything simple so you can see it all in one layout. So, but you get the idea where I'm coming from. So all these religions, all these denominations are a break off from the Roman Catholic Church. That's why they call them Protestants. Look that word up one day when you get a chance. The word Protestant, saints, means to protest. They were protesting out from the Roman Catholic Church. The Lutherans were like the first ones to really rebel against the Roman Catholic Church. And then you had all these other break-offs from the Lutherans, and the Baptists came out, the Mormons came. So you started having all these different religions breaking off from one another, but they all stem from the Roman Catholic Church, and the Roman Catholic Church stems from Constantine rising of the papal power, and Constantine was a pagan worshiper, brothers and sisters, and all of this goes all the way back to pagan worship, all the way back to Nimrod, who was the beginning of Babel. Now, I'm really praying that you're starting to see the big picture here, because this is going to be important. This is going to be key. So when we go back to Revelation and read those key verses, it's going to be like a light bulb going off in your head, because you're going to completely understand now where I'm coming from with all this. Now, I want you to look to your right of all the Christian churches where you see Islam. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but Islam was a creation of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, I don't care what these Islamic people say. They can argue that all they want to. It's out there. It's in the history. Islam is a creation of the Roman Catholic Church. And I want you to look at way to the right where I have Hinduism, Buddhism, and atheism. And there's some more, brothers and sisters, that I just couldn't fit them all on the chart. But they all stem from pagan worship. So this is the new Babylonian system. So you can see it's still similar to the old system. It's the same thing, brothers and sisters. It's just, you just have more things in here that was built off the old system. So you look at it today, you look at all these Christian churches and where they came from. And brothers and sisters, many of our people don't even know this. They're sitting up in their Baptist churches, their Lutheran churches. They're sitting up in their Presbyterian churches, their Pentecostal churches, their Jehovah's Witnesses, their SDAs. They're sitting up in those churches on a Sunday on the day of the sun, paying homage to the sun god Tammuz, and they don't even realize what the hell they're worshiping, brothers and sisters. That's why this thing is so serious. And it bugs me to no end that our people refuse to wake up when you try to share this information with them, and it's like they totally ignore you. So that's why, I encourage you, brothers and sisters, share this video with these brothers and sisters, because they need to see this. This needs to be exposed, because a lot of our people don't understand where these churches came from. They don't understand that when they're sitting in those pews on Sunday, they don't understand who they're really paying homage to. That's why when it says in Revelation, that great city Babylon is fallen, come out of her, my people, it's talking about come out of this Babylonian system, this paganistic worship system that our people are so heavily caught up in. Now, this pagan system, brothers and sisters, include all the pagan holidays. Now, we talked about the pagan holidays earlier. All the current pagan holidays that exist today existed in the past. So all that's crammed up in there. Christianity, the pagan holidays, all that is crammed into this new Babylonian system, brothers and sisters, which existed thousands of years ago. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just you have name changes, and now you have all these Christian churches pretending to be of something that's supposed to be spiritual. Well, it is spiritual in a sense, but it's a spiritual evilness from paganism. And so many people are deceived, not realizing what they're worshiping. So every single religion upon the face of this earth all stems back to pagan worship. The only difference with these religions today is that it's packaged under the grand term Christianity, or the Christian churches, naming Lutherans, Baptists, Mormons, Presbyterians, Pentecostals, whatever the denomination is. It's all paganism. It all stems back to the original source. You can't get away from it. And see, this is why the Most High Yah never gave us religion. He gave us laws, commandments, and statutes to our forefathers and to us to this very day. But what happened to our forefathers? They stopped keeping the laws. They started following after the pagan heathens and worshiping their idols. And look what happened to them. They went into slavery. Every time they did that, they would fall into slavery. Brothers and sisters, if we ain't learned by now, then I don't know what it's going to take for Yah's chosen people to wake the hell up and realize the dangers of this Babylonian pagan system, which stems all the way back to Nimrod and exists to this very day. And this is why we are not, as Yah's chosen people, are to take part in this system. It's that serious, saints. It's that serious. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. It says, "For thou art an holy people unto Elohim. Elohim hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth." Brothers and sisters, I hope you really see the seriousness of this. The Most High is telling us that he has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. In other words, there is no other nation upon the face of this earth that the Most High reveres than us, brothers and sisters. And this is why I hate it when I see our people get caught up in this Babylonian system, this Christianity, this pagan worship, these pagan holidays, which is all a part of this Babylonian system. It just blows my mind. That's why we have to keep warning our people, because even if they don't like it, we still got to tell them. Because a lot of our people don't want to be rescued. They don't want to hear this truth. They get mad at you. They call you fanatics. They call you crazy. They say you got a demon in them. When they sitting up worshiping pagans, they're worshiping the devil himself. But yet they got enough nerves to say, because we're waking up to the truth, we're getting back to these laws, commandments, and statutes, they want to say that we got a demon in us. That tells you how blind they are. That tells you the kind of spell that they're under this Babylonian system. All right, getting back to this layout real quick. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out. First, the SDA that's grouped in with all the religions. Now, they do worship on Saturdays, but however, they still are part of all this Babylonian pagan system. They still embrace all the pagan holidays and, all that. So, but what I wanted to talk about was, what is the biggest symbol for Christianity today? What is the biggest symbol that they use to mark Christianity? You guessed it, it's the cross. It is the biggest widespread symbol on the face of the earth. You can go anywhere in the world and you'll see this symbol. You'll see it in the Christian churches, on their pews. You'll see it on their altars. You'll see it on their steeples. People wear these crosses around their necks. The Army chaplains, the Navy chaplains, they wear them on their collars. I mean, we can go on and on. You'll see this symbol everywhere, and it is so popular among the Christians. And they associate this with Christianity. And when people see this cross, the first thing that pops in their mind is a white, blue-eyed Jesus. I'm telling you, this is so programmed into the minds of people, especially our people. And a lot of people think that Yehoshua was hung on a cross. Our Elohim would not allow his only begotten son to be hung on something as pagan as this. And I'm going to prove that from the Bible. Now I'm going to ask you another question. How many of y'all know what this cross stands for in the shape of a T? You probably got it right again. Does the name Tammuz come to mind? That's right, the son of Nimrod, who would later be known as the sun god, who was born on 25th December. Billions, you hear me, saints? Billions of people wear this pagan item around their necks, and they have no idea what it even stands for. When they put this thing around their neck, they are taking part in sun worship. That's what it is. It stands for Tammuz, who was the sun god who they worshipped throughout the centuries for thousands of years. I'm going to prove that to you. I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to show you a picture, and I want you to pay attention to it really closely. All right, I want you to look at this picture here. Now, notice what they're holding in their hands, symbols. Now, notice the sundials. Notice the little spokes that are coming out around the round figures. That represents the sun, brothers and sisters. That is the sun. Notice that they have a T, which people know as a cross. Today, on both pictures, you see a cross. That is the representation of Nimrod's son, Tammuz. Now, these people, these popes, they know this. They know the history of all the pagan worships, brothers and sisters, because they know where all this stuff stems from. And the powers that be, they know what this stuff is as well, too. I mean, this stuff is out there, and I've been all over the world, and I've visited many of these big sites where these Roman Catholic churches were, and it's the same thing. You see the same symbols. They have them all over their churches. They're not ashamed of it. But it's this sad, our people so caught up in these pagan worships, and they don't even realize what they're worshiping. They're sitting up in these Sunday churches blindly thinking that they're worshiping the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They just have no idea, saints. And there's another symbol that I did not mention. Now that's the Islamic crescent moon that you see, and that also stems from pagan worship. And there's a lot of more symbols out there. It's just the cross was one of the biggest ones, since it's so associated with Christianity and it's all over the world. But so was the crescent moon as well too. So, but brothers and sisters, this thing is deep, and this goes all the way back to Nimrod. All this pagan worship. And like I said earlier, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just today, everything that was built off the old Babylonian system was built up into this very day that we're living in. So if you have a brother or a sister that comes up to you and proudly says, I'm a Baptist, I'm a Lutheran, I'm a Presbyterian, I'm a Pentecostal, I'm a SDA, I'm this, I'm that, you can't touch that, then you can proudly tell them that their religion came out of pagan worship. Before we move on, let me show you the verse where it talks about our holy Hamashiach. He was hung on a tree and not this pagan cross of Tammuz. All right, let's go to Acts chapter 5 and verse 30. It says, the Elohim of our fathers raised up Yehoshua, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree. So there you have it, saints. Let's go over to Revelation chapter 18, and I'm going to read verses 1 and 2. And it says, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. All right, saints, so here's some key words to really pay attention to. So Babylon the Great is fallen. Now, I already showed you through scriptures that Babylon is not a particular place, but a worldwide system. Now, look at the next portion of this verse, and it says, and is become the habitation of devils. Now, people who say that the United States is Babylon is not accurate, because it says that it would and is become the habitation of devils. Well, the United States is not the only place, brothers and sisters, that is the habitation of devils. So this tells you right here that it's not talking about a particular place. It's talking about a system, a Babylonian system that affects the whole world, not just a particular place. And it goes on to say, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So this system is so bad, it's so corrupt, that it's corrupting the hearts and the minds of Yah's chosen people. Now, the Most High, we know that he is not dealing with these other nations. However, you're going to have a small remnant of the heathens that will be saved only for the position of servants and handmaids. They're going to be righteous servants. So I want to make sure I make that clear to you. So, but outside of that, the Most High is not dealing with these other nations. He's only dealing with his people. So this whole Babylonian system is corrupting our people. All right, let's go over this again, because I really want you to see this. I really want you to get the picture in your head that this Babylonian system is not a particular place, but a worldwide system. Now, remember in the beginning, we talked about Nimrod. He was the beginner of Babel. All this pagan worship stemmed out of that. Well, it existed before, but Nimrod really gratified it. And then out of that, spiritual pagan kingdom Babylon. This is the system that is in place today. As we speak right now, 2018, it is the spiritual pagan kingdom of Babylon. And this is the great city that's getting ready to fall. And what does this great city consist of? It consists of pagan worship, pagan holidays, Christianity. Your world religions or your Christianity, world religion, whether it's Protestants, Islam, Hinduism, atheism, all that, brothers and sisters, are tied in to this whole Babylonian system. That's why Christianity is such a dangerous drug. Well, all of it actually is, because it's all a part of this Babylonian system. So I'm really praying that you see this and visualize what's going on here. Now, I have a map down there to kind of indicate where this spiritual pagan kingdom Babylonian is affecting. It's affecting the whole world. The whole world is taking part of this, brothers and sisters. That's why the Most High tells his people to come out of her, my people. Come out of Babylon. This is what this is talking about. Now, I've even seen some Hebrews who are teaching that you have to flee America in order to get out of Babylon. And if they're teaching that, then they're just as lost as the heathens, because I don't care where you go in this world, you're going to constantly be surrounded with this spiritual pagan kingdom Babylon. Because guess what? It's not Christianity worldwide. I don't care where you go in the world, you're going to find Christianity. I don't care where you go in the world, you're going to find pagan worship. Is the pagan holidays not worldwide? Are they not celebrating pagan holidays all over the world? That's right. You can't get away from it. You got your world religion. Every religion in a book is in every country of the globe. But see, here's the thing that people don't realize. In order to come out of Babylon, brothers and sisters, we must not partake of these things. So in other words, you need to come out of Christianity. You need to come out of these pagan holiday worships. You need to come out of these pagan worships. You need to come out of these world religions. That is the Babylonian system that the Most High is telling us to come out of, because it's fallen, it's starting to crumble. And those who refuse to come out are going to be destroyed along with this system. That's why I pray for my people all the time, because you know, when I see them up in these churches and caught up in this Christianity, they have no idea the dangers that they're facing. Now, granted, we have a lot of our people who are caught up in this Babylonian system that have not awakened yet, but the Most High already got them marked. The Most High is going to wake them up at the right time, and they're going to come out, just like all the rest of us. We came out. All of us were a part of Christianity or some other world religion at one time, but we were all a part of this whole Babylonian system until the Most High woke us up and we came out of that system. And the powers that be, the kings of this earth, they know all about this spiritual kingdom Babylonian system, brothers and sisters. They know all about it. They worship their pagan gods, and they know that they have fooled the masses and getting the masses to take part in this Babylonian system. That's why so much money was spent to keep Yah's people ignorant through media, politics, especially through religion. And Babylon is fallen as a result of Yah's chosen people waking up. I told you, brothers and sisters, this thing is all about us. The Most High, the more of us that wake up and get back to these laws, commandments, and statutes, I'm telling you, the quicker the Most High is going to come, because it's not enough just to wake up. We have a lot of Israelite brothers and sisters waking up, but the problem is a lot of them don't want to keep the laws. And that's what's holding this whole thing up. So the more of us that get back to this Torah, hey, the quicker things are going to speed up. I mean, I can't put it no other way. All right, let's go ahead and jump down to verse 3 of Revelation chapter 18. And it says, "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." Now let me stop right there and make a valid point. It says, for all nations, brothers and sisters, have drunk of the wine. The wine, remember I said that key word earlier? So this right here tells you again that this Babylonian system is not a particular place, but a worldwide system, because it says for all nations. For all nations have drunk of the wine. What is this wine? It's pagan worship. It's Christianity. It's the pagan holidays. It's the world religions. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. So in other words, all these presidents, all these kings, all the world leaders of the earth are taking part in this spiritual Babylonian kingdom system. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. This is deep, saints. This is some serious stuff. So when we think back everything we went over, now it should really make sense to you that Babylon is a worldwide system that is corrupting the whole world. Not only that, but it's corrupting Yah's chosen people. That's why we have to come out of this system. Verse 4. "And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." Now I want to go back where it says, "Come out of her, my people." Is this talking about all the nations, brothers and sisters? Absolutely not. He's talking about his chosen people, the people of the Most High Yah. Because remember, we read back in Deuteronomy 7:6, it says that we are a peculiar people. The Most High Elohim has chosen us above all the nations. So we got to keep that in mind. And there's a lot more scriptures that talks about that. So when it says, "Come out of her, my people," it's talking about his chosen people, that ye be not partakers of her sins. What is this sin? It's this Babylonian system, these pagan worships, these world religions, Christianity, the pagan holidays, all that's tied into it. Come out of that ye receive not of her plagues. And what are her plagues? It's the destruction of Christianity, of these pagan holidays, these pagan worship, these world religions that are destroying our people. And if they're caught up in that stuff, They're going to be destroyed when this whole Babylonian system falls. All right, now let's go over to Revelation 14:8. And then I'm going to add in the next two verses, and then you're going to really see where all this fits in at. So let's go over our base scripture again. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Now, by now, we should all know what that wine is now, brothers and sisters. It is pagan worship. It is Christianity. It's the world religions. It's the pagan holidays. Everything that's tied to this spiritual Babylonian kingdom system is the poison wine. What does wine do to you when you drink too much of it? It makes you intoxicated, right? That's why people say that Christianity is a hell of a drug, because people who are caught up in it are showing similar symptoms as someone who was drugged up on crack, LSD, or any other kind of drug. That's what it does to you, brothers and sisters. It blinds you to the truth, and you have no idea what's going on around you. That's why it takes the Spirit of the Most High to break his people from this strong delusional drug. All right, the verse we all been waiting for, Revelation 14:9. I'm going to read it through, and then we're going to come back through and break it down. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. Now let's first of all go to where it says worship the beast. If any man worship the beast. Now who is this beast? We just confirmed what this beast is in verse 8. It's Babylon, or should we say the spiritual pagan kingdom Babylon that exists today. Also, another thing about beast, a beast in Bible prophecy is a kingdom or kings. And you can get that in Daniel chapter 2 and 7. It'll tell you that these beasts are kings. So we know for sure through scriptures that this beast right here that it's talking about is talking about Babylon, the Babylonian system that we have in place today. Now, one more point I want to bring out before we move on. Now, notice where it says worship the beast. That's a key word, saints. Worship. People who are caught up in this Babylonian system, what is the main thing that they're doing? They're worshiping idols. What are you doing when you're caught up in Christianity? You're worshiping idols. What do you do when you're caught up in all the world religions? You're worshiping idols. So let's move on. So it says, if any man worship the beast and his image. Now, what is this image? Well, it's very simple. You look at the cross. They got all the religious symbols that they have, the crescent moon, and so many more, to include this white, blue-eyed Jesus that people worship, which is really Caesar Borgia. It's an idol, brothers and sisters. That's what that is. It is an idol. And billions of people have this white, blue-eyed Jesus up in their homes. They wear him around their necks. That's all it is an idol. So it's the image, all the images that come with pagan worship. I mean, think about it. What do you do when you put a Christmas tree up in your house? You're erecting an image. Well, what kind of image? It's a pagan image. And so many people do this and don't even realize what they're putting up. So many people wear crosses around their necks and don't even realize what it stands for. People wear the crescent moons and all these other paganistic symbols. All right, let's move on. And receive his mark. Whose mark? The mark of the beast. And receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. Now, a lot of our brothers and sisters read this and they think that it's talking about a chip. This is an allegory, brothers and sisters. This is not talking about a chip. Why would we have a chip in our hand or on our foreheads when we've been carrying chips in our back pockets for the last 20 to 15 years? This is talking about partaking in the Babylonian system, because what do you do when you use your hands? How do you put up that Christmas tree? How do you erect that cross? You're taking part. And then in your forehead, in your mind, you're taking part in the spiritual aspect of all of this Babylonian pagan system. That's what this is talking about, brothers and sisters. Not a chip in your right hand or your forehead. And I hear a lot of people teach that it's going to be a chip, that the beast is a chip. No, brothers and sisters, it's not a chip at all. It's the participating in these pagan worships, these pagan holidays, these world religions, Christianity. That's what the Babylonian pagan system is. That is the kingdom of Babylon, and that's what's going to be crushed when Yehoshua returns. Remember, we talked about the image in Daniel chapter 2, where Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome will all be crushed together. Why? Because the practices of these pagan worship are still going on to this very day. So that's what's going to be destroyed, brothers and sisters, and that's what we have to come out of. All right, let's recap a little off of Revelation 14:9. So we read, if any man worship the beast, and we know that beast in Bible prophecy represents a king or a kingdom. So this is talking about the Babylonian kingdom that exists today, the spiritual Babylonian pagan kingdom. Remember, Nimrod was the beginner of Babel. And we go down the image. What is this image? Well, this image is all the religious and pagan symbols, to include this white, blue-eyed Jesus, this Caesarea Borgia. So it's all of these symbols that come with all this pagan. And then it says, receive mark in hand or forehead. But what kind of mark? That means taking part in all these pagans, these religious worships, whatever religious you're a part of, whether it's Christianity or any other world religion, it doesn't matter. It's all part of this wicked Babylonian system that is controlled and ran by the heathens. Now, Yah's laws. Now, I put that there for a reason, because Yah's laws are the only way, brothers and sisters. It is the only way. That's why, as the Most High is waking up his people, a lot of us are getting back to the Torah, because that's important, and we're coming out of Babylon. Now, I mentioned before that we have a lot of our people still caught up in Babylon, that the Most High is going to wake up at the right time. But brothers and sisters, there's going to get to a point where our people are going to have to make a decision, whether they're going to stay in Babylon or come out, whether they're going to serve Satan or whether they're going to serve the Most High Yah. And by staying in Babylon, they're sealing their faith by participating in these pagan holidays, these religious services, Christianity, or whatever part of world religion that they're taking part of. They're receiving this mark by refusing to come out of this wicked spiritual Babylonian kingdom, brothers and sisters. That's what this thing is all about. It's all about worship. Either you're going to worship Satan or you're going to worship the Most High Yah. That's why when you have people like Pastor Omar, who's over the school of the Hebrews, and he's telling his people that they are Hebrew Israelites, but however, he's telling them that the law is null and void, and that's very dangerous. And he's telling them that it's okay to embrace all the pagan holidays. And see, that's worse than Christianity, brothers and sisters. You might as well just go back into Christianity and put a blindfold over your eyes, because it's not good enough just to be woke, and then you're still embracing the pagan holidays. You're still taking part in Christianity in these world religions. That's even worse, brothers and sisters. But I want to show you what's going to happen to a lot of our people who refuse to come out of Babylon. Let's go over to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and we read verses 9 through 11. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. Is not this wicked Babylonian kingdom system full of power and signs and lying wonders? These symbols, the cross, the crescent moons, all these pagan holidays, pagan worship, all these world religions, all part of the Babylonian system. Verse 10, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Verse 11, and for this cause Elohim shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. Now, how many of you told your family members the truth who are caught up in Christianity or caught up in these other world religions, told you that you were crazy because you're trying to get me into a cult or something like that? I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, they have a strong delusion on them. So a lot of our people who are caught up in this worldwide Babylonian pagan system are drugged to the point where they can't even see anything around them. They cannot see truth. So the Most High put the spirit of delusion on them. So a lot of our people, brothers and sisters, unfortunately, are going to refuse to come out of Babylon. And therefore, when Babylon comes crashing down, guess what? A lot of our people are going to be destroyed with it. You know, and I hate that. And I know the Most High doesn't want to destroy any of his chosen people. But sometimes, brothers and sisters, when you're just blatantly disobedient, the Most High has no other choice but to destroy you. So people who are calling themselves Christian Hebrews, but they refuse, and they're part of a congregation that refuse to keep the laws, and they still want to continue to embrace these pagan holidays, pagan worship. Well, guess what, brothers and sisters? There's going to come a time where the Most High's mercy is going to shut down on them, and they're going to receive the mark of the beast because they refuse to come out of this wicked Babylonian kingdom system. Plain and simple. We can't get around it. It's either worship the Most High or worship Satan. We can't serve two masters. And for those of us that are awakened and we are keeping the laws, commandments, and statutes the best way we can, guess what, brothers and sisters? We are not a part of this Babylonian wicked kingdom system. We're not taking part in that. We don't take part in these wicked pagan holidays. We're not putting no Christmas trees up in our homes. We're not taking part in these crazy religious services or part of Christianity. Now, we were at one time before the Most High woke us up and we realized, hey, we need to get the hell out of Babylon. And we started coming out. So, brothers and sisters, this is a great thing, and this truth, nothing can beat it. So I would rather receive the mark of the Most High, which is his laws, commandments, and statutes, brothers and sisters, and the word of the Most High. That's the mark that we need to be in. That's why the Bible says, be ye separate. We are a set apart people. All right, let's jump back to Revelation, get a couple more verses, and then we're going to wrap it up. Revelation 14:9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. Now we should all know what that is by now, brothers and sisters. Verse 10. The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, you do not want to be a part of this wicked Babylonian system, because that is the mark. That is the mark of the beast being this wicked Babylonian kingdom system. That's why it says, come out of her, my people. And that's going to be a horrible sight for a lot of our people. That's why we got to warn them as much as we can, brothers and sisters. Now, yeah, your family members are going to call you crazy. Your friends are going to call you crazy. I've lost best friends over this truth. But you know what? I'm determined and I'm committed. And there's nothing else that matters to me in this world but this truth, but the Most High's laws, commandments, and statutes. So I'm going to keep on sounding the alarm. I'm going to keep on blowing the trumpet. So that's what it's going to take. And for those who will listen, all praises to the Most High, because there's still a lot of people, all of our people, who are caught up in this Babylonian system that the Most High is going to bring out at the right time. But like I said earlier, saints, it's getting to a point, it's getting crunch time. And it's getting to a time where you're not going to have time to make a decision. The decision is now. Coming out of Babylon is now. This is the time that really press upon our people to come out of this wicked system. So I really pray that you see it, Zion. And if you have to go back to the video lesson again to get the whole meaning, because it's deep, there's a lot of things a lot of people just don't know and understand when it comes to this Babylonian system. And so many people are wearing these wicked crosses around their necks, and they don't even realize that they're taking part in some worship. They don't realize that they're carrying, or they're wearing, the mark of Nimrod's son, Tammuz, the so-called sun god, that people worship to every Sunday. This Sunday cycle worship. It's dangerous, brothers and sisters. That's why this thing is so serious. But yet, a lot of our people take it so lightly. And when you talk to people in these churches, they truly believe that they're worshiping the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And nothing could be further from the truth, when in reality, they're actually worshiping Satan. That's right, Satan. But don't tell them that, because they'll swear up and down that you're crazy. Oh no, we're not worshiping Satan, you're worshiping Satan. But go tell them to do their research. So, brothers and sisters, I just want to say it's always been an honor to serve my Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters scattered to the four corners of the earth. And you already know what time it is. I'm going to leave you with Revelation chapter 14 and verse 12. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they who keep the commandments of Elohim and have the faith of Yehoshua. So, brothers and sisters, I say shalom, and stay strong.